We are live. Council, you're all set? We're going to bring this meeting to order. Why don't you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councillor Moore?
Here.
Councillor Robichaud?
Here.
Councillor Larochelle?
Here.
Councillor Lunt?
Here.
Councillor Fellows?
Here.
Councillor Smith?
Here.
Councillor Miller?
Here.
Next item, please.
All right. Next item is Order 2265 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA, Section 4056A, Personnel Matters.
Take a motion. Entertain the motion.
I'll make the motion. Second it.
All those in favor? We're going to be going to the next room for executive session, so you all can stay. We'll try to be...
I thought we were going to do the,
It's changed. Yeah, it changed. We don't actually have, I don't think they're here yet for that, so thank you, Harry, though. We're going to go to the next room. We will try to be as quick as possible. That way they can remain. So we'll be back out shortly. Perfect. We're on.
All right.
We entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
make this motion to come out of executive session.
Second that.
All in favor? And after that, next item, please.
All right. Next item is good news and recognition. We have the Lisbon High School Competition Cheering Team Championship Title Proclamation.
So if I can have the cheerleaders come right in here.
This is awesome. I like this. This is awesome.
Right in. Don't be shy. It's my first time too.
It is. He ain't kidding.
Everybody in. There we go. All right. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the Lisbon High School Competition Cheering Team has made the community of Lisbon very proud as they claimed the 2022 state championship title. Whereas these cheerleaders have won the 4th cheering team championship in school history at the Augusta Civic Center on February 12th. Whereas the cheering season was a strong one, winning the Class C Southern Region on February 5th. Whereas at the 2022 Class C State Cheering Competition, the Lisbon High School girls defeated Dexter High School to take their 4th state championship in an 8-year span. Whereas the 2022 Class C State Cheering Competition team members were Reese McAtee, Trinity Trufant, Annika Galino, Jennifer St. Pierre, Grace Braley, Larissa Cleaves, Penelope Lucas, Nevaeh Fortin, Riley Hoyle, and Mackenzie Terriot. Now therefore we, the Lisbon Town Council, wish to congratulate and thank the Lisbon High School cheerleaders and their coach, Nicole Adams, for their fine representation of the town of Lisbon while winning the state championship title.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great job.
Awesome.
Nicole, how long have you been coaching the girls?
My first season was in 2014.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Thanks for everything you did.
Thank you.
And we will need a motion to adopt the Lisbon High School Competition Cheering Team Championship
And
title.
Make that motion.
Got one? Second?
Second it.
Second. All those in favor? Perfect. Thank you.
Who made the motion to begin?
That's awesome.
And I believe it's Dawn.
Dawn.
Good for you.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you guys bringing them in like that. That's nice.
Next item,
Okay.
please, whenever you're ready.
We have an additional, we have one additional good news and recognition.
So this is going to fall under recognition. Unfortunately, this is not good news. But Gordon Curtis, a member of this community, a really great man, passed away unexpectedly on Friday. at the age of 85 years old. Mr. Curtis served in a variety of committees and commissions over the last 5 decades here in Lisbon. He was a youth football coach for the Recreation Department in the early 70s and also coached baseball for the Lisbon Junior Athletic League, as well as the American Legion adult teams. Mr. Curtis ran the Pejepscot Snow Chiefs and was also in charge of running the world's greatest sleigh rides, the Pejepscot Sleigh Rides, right here in Lisbon. This is just scratching the surface of the impact he had on many lives in the community of Lisbon. Gordon Curtis was a great man, and this was a huge loss to our town of Lisbon. Our thoughts and prayers from all of us in Lisbon go out to the Curtis family and his friends. Thank you.
Definitely done a lot for the town. The whole family has. Yeah.
Next, public hearings. Once the chair opens the public hearing, those present who wish to speak, please approach the lectern to address the council chair. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record. The first and only public hearing tonight, Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Stipend to Employees.
And I'll open that public hearing for anybody who would like to speak. Seeing
Do we
no,
want to summarize it?
if we want,
I can pull that up.
Brian, would you like to just kind of give a quick overview? Yeah.
I most certainly
Brief.
can.
Yep.
So a brief overview of this is essentially it's a one-time qualified disaster relief payment, hazard pay to the employees of Lisbon. It would be for employees that worked through 2021 during the pandemic. For full-time employees, it would be a $2,000 stipend, and for part-time employees that worked a minimum of 20 hours a week, and also all public safety employees would be a one-time $1,000 stipend, and that would come from the Federal Coronavirus Act.
Yes, sir. Anybody have any interest to speak after that? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Next item, please.
Next item, audience participation and response for agenda items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues that are on the agenda. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record.
Anybody would like to come up tonight for anything that's on the agenda? Seeing no activity there also. Next item, please.
Next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered routine and will be considered for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion unless a councilor requests an item be removed. Any councilor wishing to remove an item may do so now. Seeing none. Order 2022-66 to approve the A, municipal accounts payable warrants totaling $18,367.75. Municipal payroll warrants, none. School accounts payable warrants totaling $261,261.75. And school payroll warrants totaling $366,907.10.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Next item, council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2022-67, sewer project updates. This is a presentation by Mandy Alver.
Good evening, Steve Aviola, Sewer Department. We requested Mandy do this presentation as a former counselor actually requested it last June. Now, new counselor actually brought it up during the Meet the Candidates night in late October, I believe it was. And we wanted to do this update, give you an idea where we are with our projects. One of the projects you're going to hear more about here shortly. Gentleman here to speak about the Main Street project tonight, which will be our final project out of all through the funding package that was done. And if you don't have any questions for me, I'll ask Mandy to come up and do a presentation for you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Mandy Alver from Alver Associates. So as some of you know, and those of you who are new to the council in the last few years may not know, back in 2016, the town hired us to do a study of the wastewater system, including the pump stations, the sewer, and the treatment plant. And that study recommended over $20 million worth of upgrades back in 2016 dollars. So you know how the economy's been and how everything has gone up in price. We figure an escalation of at least 5% per year. So we're well close to $30 million worth of projects. Back in 2017, the town voted a referendum for $9 million worth of funding, which was a loan. You've seen my memo, I believe, probably in your packet, so I don't want to rehash everything in there, but basically it was a $6 million loan and change and a $3 million grant and change. And what it was supposed to fund was 4 projects, 2 different phases of sewer work, which have been completed over the last couple of years. The Davis Street Pump Station project, which is well on its way to completion in the next few months, along with some work at the treatment plant to expand the chlorine contact tank. And then the 4th project, which is going to be talked about in a few minutes, is the replacement of the sanitary sewer underneath the DOT work on Main Street. That was supposed to cost $9 million. But we've actually had some good news, is that we've been able to do most of this work and projected the work that we're going to complete with a remainder of about $1.3 million, which can be carried into other projects. So the funding, because of the way it was put together with rural development funding, you're required to do an environmental review and a preliminary engineering report, which outlines where you're going to spend the money. They used to be a little more flexible about changing how they'd allow you to spend the money, but at this point, the only place we can spend anything is the treatment plant. The good news to that is there's plenty of work to be done at the treatment plant. The next project that we had identified in the report as a priority at the treatment plant is replacement of the sludge processing system. Right now, the plant uses a centrifuge system, and Steve was just telling me as we were sitting there that they had problems today. So sorry, Ryan, he hasn't had a chance to tell you this, but as we were chatting there, and they've had some ongoing problems and repairs to the centrifuge over the last couple of years. It's 20 years old. 20 years is a very typical design life for wastewater equipment, and it was slated for replacement in 2023. So that's roughly a $2 million project, and we've got about $1.3 million of grant money. I'll come back to that in a second. The grant part of it is important because this money can be used towards that or any other project at the treatment plant the town decided to prioritize, but the top priority project in talking with Steve really is this centrifuge. And you've got some money, evidently, that's in a restricted fund or committed fund that could be put towards the rest of it. Obviously, that's a council decision in budgeting, but what Steve is talking about doing as a priority is trying to use the money for the next project. And that's what we wanted to kind of update you, put that thought in your head, and kind of explain what's going on. Now, as far as the expenditure of the money, because it's grant money, you've borrowed what you've borrowed, and that loan is going to be a definite amount. If you chose not to spend the leftover money, you'd be giving back grant. So there's no way that you'd want to do that. You borrowed this money with the idea you're going to get grant money to go with it. So we don't want to lose any of that. So that's my quick synopsis of where we are, and I'd be glad to take any questions.
Any questions from council? I have a quick one. The time frame of spending down the grant, are we limited? I mean, are we coming to the end? Do we have a year or two to do this? Is 6 months, or what are we looking at as far as the time frame?
Rural development prefers that you spend the money within 5 years of originally getting it, and we got it in 2017, so we're kind of up against that. But they also recognize part of the reason we didn't talk about spending what we thought might be any excess money was because we wanted to wait and have the Main Street project bid and know what we were going to spend, so we had because those are the priority projects from the beginning. So they will give you some flexibility to spend it, but they like to see it gone in 5 years. That's not going to happen. So, but they will be flexible about the next couple of years.
Is it possible to get an extension on that? I mean, what is the process to go beyond the 5 years? Is there a process to actually continue it beyond there, or is it not really that tight of a restriction?
It's not that tight a restriction. There's not a formal process it's not going to expire as of date certain. Yeah. But they do start to pressure you and say, hey, what are you going to do with the rest of this money? Which they've actually already done once we had these bids in. They were asking the same question that you were asking.
So,
Does the term stay the same by extending the
yes,
original terms?
The loan percentage is fixed at the time that you took it out. There's not going to be any change in interest rate or anything about closing. The only thing it could do is go down. It actually, from when you first borrowed it.
Be nice.
Yeah, but it can't go up.
I want to, just in addition to that question I had was the, I mean, we're as tonight we got our budget books and we're doing a budget presentation, so we're way deep into this budget for this year coming. How long, say if we were to wait till the Main Street project was done and we started looking at the engineering and the development of that, are we looking at a year to actually get this project even to the point where it'd be shovel ready anyways to change? Sounds like a major overhaul of that area.
Yes, realistically, I mean, to do those kind of design preparations, and we have the same problem everybody else does, you know, but with being behind between COVID and our sub-consultants that, you know, that we have to depend on to get things done. So, yeah, takes, I would say, at least 9 months to a year to go from start to getting something ready to bid.
So realistically, if we didn't actually consider it in this year's budget, and we actually, once we got done budget season and Main Street project was going well, we could actually start looking at the process and actually do the engineering and start getting the legwork for it and potentially do it in our following year budget. I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking at this point. Maybe council may have a different idea as we go through, but just to know that we need to do it and that there may be some funds available that, you know, we can actually start working towards that, I think is important. But I just wanted to hear from you that it wasn't, you know, an overnight type of thing that could happen. It is a time frame that would probably put us into the following budget season anyways. Steve, maybe you can add to that.
Well, can I just mention about as far as budgeting goes? I mean, there's really nothing that's going to come out of Steve's budget as far as the $1.3 million. That's already been voted on and committed towards sewer projects. I mean, you've either got to choose something to spend it on or lose it at some point in time.
That .7 that I have concern about.
Right.
That's already funds that have made its way through the undesignated fund or surplus that Kayla may be able to better answer a question about that, but those are funds that are already in place that we would not have to apply a budget to.
So at worst, you carry it over, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you leave it in.
It's my understanding that you were putting those funds aside for many years, knowing that at some point they were going to have to do this.
So it's like kind of a capital plan reserve that was put
Committed
aside.
fund balance is what the term was.
Yeah.
And tonight's more of just an update.
Yeah.
It's not asking for money at this point. It was more of have them to come
Understandable.
and
To get
update.
the conversation started so we can start looking towards doing this, because we didn't want to come at you out of the blue asking for $2 million.
Yep.
When we have 1.3 of it, we actually have the other 700,000 that would cover it. That's in that committed fund balance.
Nice.
And just working through the process of getting approval to use it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody on the council that I've seen has any concerns about that. It's not a needed project. I think it's just more how it fits within the realm of our budgeting. But it sounds like there's probably already answers that, good answers. So I think great information, and as we move forward, I'm sure we have more questions. And that $2 million, I mean, that's just a good estimate. I mean, that could change quite drastically when we start looking at the engineering of it and the complete package, right?
It is. It's a preliminary cost estimate, not based on plans, but based on other projects we've done of a similar nature and assessing what Steve's specific needs are. The control panel, it dates from not the 20 years, but the
It
first.
has knobs, not digital.
1990, when the centrifuge was installed, a lot of the controls and everything were wired through the old belt press control panel. So there's going to be some work to remove that panel, rewire everything, plus get what you need over for a new panel for the new piece of equipment.
Oh, it's great, and I think the whole council will be looking forward to hearing the information and hopefully trying to move forward to update our town, right? We all know our infrastructure is getting quite old, so. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the information. Next item, please.
Order 2022-68, Main Street, Route 125, project update. We have Maine Department of Transportation and McGee Construction.
Perfect. I'd like to invite either you up or both at one time, or however you want to do it, just kind of give an overview.
So I think this would be a good time for me to point out, since my name's Ryan McGee, that there is absolutely no relation between me and McGee Construction other than I like their last name, but there's no relation. So I just want to make that known. So
I'll take it.
Oh, some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Ernie Martin from Maine DOT. I'm the project manager for the design side. It's great to have these guys here because they're going to talk a little bit about their schedule tonight, about what their proposed schedule is. Obviously, nothing's concrete right now because we know how the world works these days. So they'll go over their proposed schedule, and from tonight, I'll work on a sheet that I can put together that I can share with all you guys, and you can share with the public as to what the intentions are for the project. Obviously, we know it's a great project, and it's awarded. You know, you guys are pretty lucky to have an awarded project with the climate we're in today, with the cost and so forth as we all trudge through it. free money's not always good, but sometimes when you get it, you got to take it and move forward, as Mandy just mentioned with grant money. Once you get it, you don't want to lose it. So with that, who do I want to turn it over to? Seth?
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Seth McGee. I'm Vice President of McGee Construction, and we're going to be tasked with reconstructing your Main Street here in town. It's a fairly large project that's getting we're going to get underway really soon. Here in the next week to 2 weeks, you'll see us out and about getting started on that. Just give kind of a broad overview of the schedule. We do have a at least preliminary schedule worked out. This is a project that's slated for over the next 2 construction seasons. So beginning this year, primarily focusing beginning at the intersection of 196 and Main Street. And we'll work from there out, focusing first on the utilities, deep utilities, and moving our way up. You'll see us working on the utilities, and then after pipe is in the ground, we move on. That's where we finish with the road. We continue on with the road reconstruction, and then finally paving and rebuild your sidewalks and give you back a nice, beautiful Main Street. In the interim, of course, there will be it won't be without disruption, of course. So. That's a broad overview, but we're here tonight with the rest of our team, and if there's any, hopefully address any concerns or questions that you may have, at least initially, or might, if we don't have the answer right this minute, it may provide food for thought as the project is ongoing. So. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to introduce the rest of my team just sitting here. So we've got Mike McGee was sitting next to me. He's the general manager, McGee Construction. Tom Linendahl at the end is the project manager. Matt McKinnon in the green shirt on this end, it will be the project superintendent. So you'll see him in town here every day. And then as well as this David Robbins next to him is the assistant superintendent. So. Collectively, we will be working to rebuild your Main Street for DOT. So
Appreciate that very much. It's been a long time coming. The community has been waiting, several years, if not longer, to actually see this happen. So it's pretty exciting stuff for everybody, I think.
Yeah, great. It's a good, challenging project.
You mentioned 2 construction seasons. What does that mean?
2 years. So the project will last into next 2023 as well. Over next, so we'll actually be completing the project in probably early fall of 2023.
Any other questions from council at this point?
Just, I think I understand that there are considerations for our Moxie Day celebration and things like that within your construction.
There is. I do know. I know we're Moxie Days, is it a 3-day weekend? Is that the festival? Yeah, I know. So I know we won't be working during those 3 days. I don't know if there's any other.
Just shut down the equipment.
Yeah. So
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
The couple things, and then we may even talk about it a little bit more, Mace. So I know there's been a talk about maybe doing another meeting that's more public-facing, so the businesses and stuff could actually share some questions, concerns, or otherwise. And there was a meeting just a week or so ago with most of the downtown businesses on Main Street, and they all have individual concerns, as you can imagine. They were kind of interested to see how this was going to start laying out. So is there a possibility that we could actually do a meeting, a public-facing meeting with the business owners and property owners down on Main Street, so you all could be there? And it was also requested that the sewer and the water department be there also, just so if people ask questions, they could get them answered. And another recommendation was actually made that I thought was actually good at that meeting was that is there an email possibly that could be shared amongst everybody concerned? So if a business owner has a question, they could email it prior to the meeting and maybe actually get that done. I mean, just one of the questions came up during that meeting was the idea there's some food vendors on Main Street, and they said usually every time the water gets shut off and turned back on, they got to do a sample and be tested to comply with their, with their obligations as far as food services. And they were just wondering how those logistics happen, and the quality of water and how often it's tested, and who's responsible for that, whether it's construction or a local water department. Just logistic questions that they have, their concerns about. You know what I mean? And I think if there is an email address or an email, that's shared amongst everybody that's part of the construction process, that maybe they could email ahead of time, so when we do have the public meeting that maybe these questions could be answered, and or at least have the information for them to share that night. So there's a lot of concerned people, and I think they're just it's not what they know, it's what they don't know, or it's the last couple of years have been very challenging for our downtown, as everybody knows. So they're just going into this next season. They just want to make sure that they make all the arrangements necessary to make sure that they can actually make it through it. So,
Sure. That may provide a good avenue to communicate with those business owners and do the best we can to keep things going smooth.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can come up with an email. We can get that distributed.
Perfect.
To you, between us, and we'll work together with DOT.
And within the next couple of weeks, is there a night that possibly that we could arrange to actually have a meeting downtown? I know there's a couple of businesses that are willing to host it. That we could get everybody in and do a questionnaire. I know DOT's already been in once, and that was a really good night. And I think a lot of people left that feeling really a lot better about some of the outcomes or some of the requirements. And most people were just concerned if they'd be able to do business. Everybody from daycares to restaurants. And we went years with a very dormant Main Street. We have a very active Main Street now, so we want to make sure we keep it that way. And I'm sure everybody would do their part to make sure that happens. But again, if we can answer the questions ahead of time, it may put away with some of the concerns, and just make sure everybody has the right connections to who to talk to if there is a question. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that would work well if we can. How we should go about coordinating that time and place, and we're certainly open to that. So.
I think that I would actually be able to offer something to our interim manager as far as a couple nights and dates, and maybe if you could actually get back to us if what would be available on those evenings. It'd probably be like a Monday night. A lot of businesses are actually off on Monday night downtown, so it'd probably be a good night to meet. And
are you thinking maybe meeting on the site or in a building? Or?
I think it would be right on Main Street, so we'd be able to look out the window and look at. I think that would help a lot, so people can actually get a good idea of what to expect. And
probably sooner than later.
Sooner than later, within the next week or two. Yep. And I'm not sure if the representative from DOT would be up for that too. I know you actually did a great presentation last time, and.
Yeah, I was just talking to Tom, and maybe, Seth, we can talk about, we got a pre-construction meeting tomorrow in Turner with DOT and the contractor, but talking with Tom, maybe set something up for Monday.
Monday the 21st?
Yes.
Yep, I think we can make it happen. I know everybody just the meeting I was at just a few nights ago, everybody was pretty eager. So, if nothing else, if we do have their email connection, if they're not able to make it there, at least they can email their information in and they can get the answer questions. We live in a world today that everything seems to be done by email or text or virtual. So, but either way, that would be really greatly appreciated. I know the downtown businesses and some of the property owners down there too. I think, we actually have a fair amount of property owners right there in that quarter that probably have as much of concerns, if anything else. So that'd be great. We do appreciate that.
One thing I was wondering, so I believe it's on the 18th of June, the Blues Festival is coming. Is there going to be a time, like if something big like that happens, would you guys be able to shut down for the afternoon or something like that if it was?
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday. We don't necessarily, not to say that we won't work any Saturdays. We don't necessarily have them set up as a rule to work Saturdays, but
Okay.
something like that. If we get a heads up, and we can certainly,
Work around it.
Yeah, and we don't want to have
I
to
just
work
know
and
it's gonna
fight
be
through.
packed. It's
Yeah,
gonna be-
traffic also. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, understandable. Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. This is not new to us. We've been involved in several community projects like this, and you got to make those things happen. It's very important to.
I know there's a lot of concerns, but I know everybody's very excited to see the end product. So, I mean, it's been a long time coming, and I think we're all anxious to see a new, pretty shiny Main Street with nice sidewalks and a few less potholes.
Absolutely.
Would it be fair to say that tomorrow I'll have you reach out to me and we can schedule it for Monday the 21st? We'll narrow down a time and the exact location, then I can get it out on the town's website, Facebook, and listserv to make sure everybody's aware of it
That should work.
ahead of time.
Yeah, well, Tom can reach out to you.
Yeah, it can be Monday. It can be Monday anytime if the the business owners or whoever is interested on that.
Perfect. It's going to start quick, so we need to make it happen, right? So
Yeah. So yes, reach out to the email. And
perfect. Any other questions from council at all?
What are the first, you said the first, next couple of weeks, what are the first few things?
So first things will be, you'll see us possibly as early as the end of this week, beginning to erect some construction signage, just the approach signage, and then after that we're still ironing out a few of the initial plans with DOT, but we've got the we've got a. This isn't the entire schedule, or at least in a bar chart form, but these are some dates here, and with stations on the road and things. But first couple things you'd see would be the signage being erected, and then followed by tree cutting. That'll be the first phase. Get those trees down. And
Are you guys doing that, or are you subbing that out?
we are working. We're self-performing some and working with a specialty tree company, so doing some of the high work around the power lines and things.
And that's the stuff that's starting first?
Yes.
Would it be possible to actually get I'm not sure if you talked to Ryan at all about getting a blueprint layout of the construction? I know a lot of times when some of your meetings you actually do
I have spoke to DOT about it.
Okay. I know it'd be nice maybe to even have Ryan's office to have a layout of what the project looks like and what it consists of. So unfortunately, he may be fielding some phone calls and
Sure.
just kind of have an idea what's going on in appropriate places and
See if we
people
could
to
come
reach
up
out
with
to.
a good. We got to go to overall view of the.
Yeah, I'll get one.
Okay.
He doesn't get any phone calls today with any complaints, so I'm sure he won't then. So
Well, if there's a phone call that comes in and you as the town are able to head it off before us, then we're happy.
What
with
was your
that as
email
well.
again? Dude,
yeah.
there is a phone call I've been getting quite often recently. Is do we know if one lane's going to be open on Main Street? I mean, can we say that we're going to keep a lane consistently open on Main Street for emergency vehicles? Obviously, I have some concerns about the fire department, which is just right up the road, but that would be good for the public to know that.
Yeah, let Tom take that. He's got the traffic control plans.
My name is Tom Lindahl. I'm the project manager for McGee Construction. I've issued a traffic control plan to the resident, and it's now in DOT's hands for approval. Our intent, one of the first conversations that Shane and I had was coming up with a way of keeping the traffic from backing up on 196, because there's a lot of work right at that intersection. The sewer structure is going to be probably the only difficult item. After that, I've proposed to have northbound traffic only on 125 from the intersection of 196 to School Street. All the side streets in between that area, as they come down, there'll be detour signs pointing them up to School Street, and then a sign saying to 196 pointing them down School Street. We'd like to do that only because of the backup on 196. Once we get to that point, then we're going to go back to the standard alternating one-way traffic, because we should have enough room between there and 196 to keep the traffic moving.
And I'm thinking you're probably deciding to do that because of the water lines or sewer lines are probably underneath that northbound section? Or?
Well, it's the, you got one line in the center of the road, one line on the shoulder. We'd like to maintain one lane at all times, whether it's the true northbound lane or when we start flipping over to do services, put all the traffic up the southbound side of Route 125.
I mean, one of the things that we learned too, the Main Street closures is
School Street.
School Street is a challenge, and so we've had the discussion where the idea if we had an option of which lane we were keeping open, that we would always keep the traffic heading towards 196, only because the intersection of 196 and 125 is the only way people can actually take a left on the 196 in the morning and afternoon. Because if you don't have that availability, what you end up doing is actually having all 125 traffic back up on School Street all the way through. And there's probably a course of 2 hours where it's impossible to make a left turn on the 196 on Union or School Street. We kind of ran into this problem, and it was
There's a lot of
nightmare.
there was a lot of complaints that I drafted because I'm also the chief of police, not just the interim town manager right now. But if that's the only option, because those are where the pipes are underneath the ground, I mean, we do have DOT here. I think that would maybe open up the revenue lines to allow us to have those temporary traffic lights put in at 196 and School Street, because that would drastically help. And I have safety concerns for the public as well, and tractor trailer trucks. All these gentlemen over here, I'm sure, drive big trucks, and it is a nightmare for them to pull out onto 196, especially if they're towing a trailer. I fielded several, actually numerous phone calls from businesses that were working in town or even had to cut through town, just explaining it was really hard to get out on a 196. So it's just important that we bring that up and bring it to your attention, because I do know that those traffic lights, I've seen those portable ones all over the state, and it'd be good if we might be able to include those in this project.
It would be nice to have some type of lighted or controlled mechanism for people to be able to turn left onto 196.
Unless we change things around and allowed.
Just downwards traffic.
Southbound,
If you always allow traffic down Main Street towards 196, they would actually have an avenue to turn left. But with that being said, I mean, there is a fair amount of heavy truck traffic down 125 with semis with fairly long boxes that would be negotiating that road during construction. So again, I guess we just want to be careful, but I can tell you that some of the bigger complaints will be just what we learned from closing down Main Street for 2 years is the idea of traffic turning left onto 196. And it isn't all day long. It's just there's a few periods throughout the day that you're going to see, even during good traffic periods, that the traffic's backed up, from the intersection 196 all the way up the hill towards Crafts, and at Canal Street all the way over the bridge, and that's on a good day. So
that's why I was hoping this question would come up, so we could find more information about how your normal flow. It just seemed natural to me that anybody turning right onto 196 to keep it out of 196, let them go north. But
problem is getting that left turn across there is almost impossible during any time between 2 and 6 in the
down School
afternoon.
Street, turning out. And
I think
going
you'd have to put a traffic light there. We've seen in the past years it was so bad that it would be really hard to go with that a third year after we had trouble previously.
But if you were allowed to head southbound on 196, that also alleviates issues, because on School Street we also have the MTM Center, which is a recreation department, where we do have a lot of kids in the summertime. So the less traffic we can have on School Street, the better off we are too. So just some things to think about, I guess, while we're planning.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, somehow for people to get safely on the 196, taking that left, heading towards Thompson would definitely be a key, And however, I mean, I know you folks definitely do a lot more traffic than I do, but it's somehow.
But we don't know the normal flow of your traffic in your town,
Yeah.
so that's.
One other point too, if the traffic is not southbound, when we blocked the street last year, we had a lot of people cutting over down to Summer Street and out on that way, and going through neighborhoods. So there's a spreading of traffic that way and all over the place, not necessarily following what we'd like to follow.
Yeah.
I think people really need a light to get out on the 196.
I think that would help. That would alleviate some of that go around.
Yeah. And how far out do you put your signage? Because I know, as Don alluded to, if people know well ahead of time, there's some side roads in different directions that people can go.
I mean, a standard approach package has your first sign at 500 feet away from your start of your construction.
You may even want to consider something up Route 125, again, a recommendation maybe further up, because some people coming down 125 may want to take a right on the Gould Road and kind of avoid the whole area versus the idea of coming down through town if they're heading 196 towards Lewiston.
That
But again,
might be message boards further out. Yeah, 4 message boards.
because I know we actually invested in, 85 signs when we closed Main Street for detours and alternate routes, and there was still people having a hard time figuring out, where to go. But again, it's just, we can talk about that more as we go through and the logistics of, through the town and safety-wise,
There's going to be people that look at their GPS, and no matter how many signs you put out, will always end up in the wrong location.
Absolutely, totally agree. But all we can do is do our best to try to mitigate it before it happens, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. We appreciate the information, and like I say, I'm sure it'll all work out at the end of the day. Any other questions?
Is there a goal location for the end of Phase 1?
Yeah, I'll talk on the schedule, but My name is Mike McGee. Our thought process, I went over this with some of our crew. As far as phase 1 to phase 2, when we first looked at the project, we knew obviously a critical part of it's downtown. So we want to, our objective for completion status is to be everything at a certain station out of downtown, so that you have sidewalks, it's base paved, your curbs in. So the only thing we'd be sitting back in would be for surface pavement the following 2023, which that puts us, I think we try to get everything, you get the most services obviously in that section, so you probably get, I guess, 60% of your work. I think we kind of got in the first year, up to maybe station 3,000, the first couple thousand feet of 125 starting at 196. So when we put this schedule together, the whole purpose and everything, we do the deeper sewer, and then we set back and do some services. When we get away from there, we start with 2 crews. We have the water guys starting with the sewer guys and working kind of within the same closure, but enough distance there that they're all working together in the best sequence that we can in order to move this thing forward, get to a stopping point where it makes the most sense for the business owners, so we're not disrupting them in a second season. So that's what everything on our schedule had in mind, you know what I mean, just so you kind of get an overview on what we were thinking there. Just so we knew that obviously that's going to be a problem, because if my business was there, it would be a problem for me, so I can completely understand that. So there is some fencing and other things and pedestrians, signage and different things that will move through downtown with us to try to kind of keep everybody accessible and manage that the best we can to make sure everybody gets where they need to be. But we completely understand it's going to be a nuisance, obviously, because it's just a lot of activity there. So, but that's what our whole schedule kind of goes around. So we do have all the utility work, and then we'll come in and box cut the area, put your under drain system up through, and then we'll set back and base pave it, curb it, and we'll do the sidewalks is kind of pushing late fall, just because that's like the last item on that phase 1 to get pulled up to where all the utilities end. If we have a decent fall, in this schedule, obviously we're going to update this every couple weeks, because you guys can guess how things will change, and as we run into stuff we don't expect, or if we have more crew available and we have the resources to put more people to it, we're going to get as much as we can done this year, by all means. So,
Nice.
Does that make you guys have any questions in how our thought process for the schedule?
So approximately boundaries from the intersection of 196 out to North-South Street.
North-South Street is kind of where.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty big area. Actually.
Yeah, it is a big area. So that's what our schedule's kind of geared towards. I'm not saying it's 100% that that's where we're laying, but
Good
hopefully if we land there and we have opportunity and the weather allows, we'll continue some pipe beyond that. To be honest with you, just to get a kind of a step in the right direction on phase 2. We won't, if we're a week or 2 ahead, we're not stopping on just because that's where the schedule shows it. So.
Nice. Any other questions for council on that matter? Good, we appreciate the information.
Thank you, guys.
Just take a minute and introduce myself. I'm Shane Amoroso. I'll be the on-site representative for DOT, so I'll be there every day. I talked with Ryan a little bit about some stuff. So thanks for having us tonight. And I think, as Tom alluded to, this is your town, so we're trying to figure out, traffic's always a big issue on these projects, and I think we all welcome any input you guys have and any suggestions, and to make it go smoothly and get it done in a timely manner. The quicker we can get stuff done, the less disruption it is for everybody. So we welcome that. We'll be at the meeting next Monday if we can pull that together, and I'll have some cards with me for the business owners at that meeting. So we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Vern, has there been a determination yet where all this equipment's going to be?
I think they're still working on that now. I think they've been around town the last couple of weeks figuring out where they are, and it sounds like they've been doing their due diligence, make sure that all works out.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions for council? If not, thank you very much. I appreciate you all coming in. I know it's a big project, and everybody's excited to get going on it for sure. Next item, please.
Order 2022-69. This item was removed and will be placed on the April 5th agenda.
Okay.
So Order 2022-70 is next, which is the municipal budget presentation and department goals.
Exciting
Came
stuff.
up pretty quick. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. See you Monday.
It's had almost as much work as planning that 125 project, right?
It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know me, that might be listening on air, my name is Ryan McGee. I'm the interim town manager, the chief of police as well for this town. And here with me is...
I'm Kayla Tierney, Finance Director and Tax Collector for the town.
And in speaking with Kayla, this budget is going to be presented by the both of us, and I'm going to have Kayla dig into the finances, where her job is the finance director. So, a little bit about the town of Lisbon. The town of Lisbon is the third largest community in Androscoggin County. Out of 492 communities, Lisbon is the 23rd largest community in the state of Maine. Based on the census data from April 1st, 2020, the population was 9,711. Now, this is the highest population Lisbon has ever had since being incorporated in 1799. And looking at that, in the 2010 census report, the town of Lisbon had a population of 9,009 people, 3,696 households, and 2,477 families living in town. In comparison, the 2020 census is showing a growth of 702 people for a total population of 9,711, 3,728 households. Some other interesting statistics from 2020 are as follows. The median age is 39 years old. 14.6%, or 987 of the population, are veterans. 8.5% of the persons below the poverty line, and the average travel time to work is 26 minutes for residents of our town. Where 2% of the residents work from home. The median value of owner-occupied housing units for evaluation purpose in this community is $150,000, and the median household income is $58,000, which is about 10% higher than the median household income for Androscoggin County. And that basically says our town is growing. Some budget components. The proposed managerial fiscal year 2023 municipal budget is for expenditures on an organizational level. Preliminary revenue figures will be highlighted, but will be focused on it in more detail at a later date. Each organizational level includes multiple departments within the town of Lisbon, and our organizational levels with the general fund include general government, health and welfare, public safety, public works, culture and recreation, economic development, intergovernmental, and some other organizational levels include debt service and sewer. I think it's important to know that the community has a lot of town services. The town of Lisbon offers a lot of services, and it's what your taxpayer money pays for. Public safety, we have a fire department, police department, animal control officer, communication center, ambulatory services. We have a transfer station. We have a library that offers many programs for all ages in our community, including summer reading programs. Parks and Recreation Department has many programs to include summer camp programs, sport camps, before and after school programs that house a lot of children in our community. We also have a lot of senior programs in our recreation center that offers our community. And we have something that a lot of communities don't have. We have Beaver Park, which is 300 acres with beautiful trails and ponds for our community to use. And the Recreation Department also does a lot more than just this. They also do trips for our senior citizens and also our children in our community. Winter operations, our Public Works Department does a great job plowing and keeping our roads safe, sanded, and salted. They also are diligently working on road repairs, even as we speak, filling in potholes. Throughout the rest of the year, they're working on our roads to ensure that they're safe and passable by our residents. We also have a DARE program in the community, and we also have a school resource officer in our schools. We are down to one school resource officer, and I do have a goal someday of bringing our second school resource back into our schools. I think that's important because we do have 4 schools in this community. General assistance, our general assistance program is very active. We have a giving tree at Christmas time, and also around Thanksgiving, we have the Thanksgiving dinners that we hand out to citizens in need in this community, so everybody in this community can have a Thanksgiving dinner. Our sewer department does an excellent job, and we also have a tax collection and motor vehicle registrations. We have a code enforcement officer, a new officer in town. We have the clerk's office, and we have a new clerk, Lisa Ward, in the community. We also have a very active assessing department, finance department, and we're searching for a town manager. So our fiscal year 23 budget, some of our challenges. First and foremost, employee retention and recruitment. I'd like to say that the council has done a good job at moving forward and getting a pay study done on our community to retain our employees. I think that's important. It's also important to know what the fair market value is to pay our employees. Vacant job descriptions, filling the gap, moving towards being fully staffed, not having singular employees holding multiple titles and hats. We had an HR study done this past fall, and that was one of the things that came up, was there was a lot of employees that were wearing multiple hats because we were short employees. COVID-19, that brought on its own challenges, something that this country hasn't seen in many, many, many years. But this town and our employees did an outstanding job. We kept the town government open. We continued to work through it, and now we're making steps to get ourselves back to normalization, I guess you could say. Removing plexiglass is steps we're taking forward, as well as several other things that we'll be doing. We're also seeing supply and demand challenges. We never thought we'd be in the situation we're in today that we're seeing across the seas with Ukraine and Russia. But we're also, before that, because of COVID-19, we're dealing with supply and demand issues. Manufacturing timelines. Anybody in business has seen manufacturing timelines. If we're ordering trucks for our public works department, they can be taking upwards of 18 months plus just before we receive them. I know that we ordered our police cruisers in August, and we're still waiting for them. So we're definitely seeing timeline delays, which causes a whole source of other issues. And then there's the price increases on goods. Now, I'm saying this all to everybody here because it's important that we took this into consideration when we were building the budget. We took this all into consideration when we were looking through all of the department heads' reports. As far as some of them, you'll see that there's operating supply lines. Their lines went up slightly. That's to take into account because there's more operating supplies we're using nowadays. There's more cleaning materials. There's all sorts of kind of other issues that we face, and sometimes we have to go with the person's able to give the product to us, and we're not able to get it from overseas. So fiscal year 23 solutions. CMA was contracted to perform a town-wide pay study. Sets job descriptions and hourly wages, salary amounts were all provided to CMA based on their presentation tonight, which was supposed to happen. He wasn't able to make it due to a family emergency. So we have, I'm going to take a brief moment because I think it's important to basically go over the staffing, the pay study. And CMA stands for Career Management Associates, which is based out of Scarborough. And they were engaged by the town of Lisbon in December 2021 following an RFP process to conduct a market compensation study covering approximately 239 employees working in approximately 75 unique position titles and job levels. Now, the scope of this study was complex, and it included the following. It conducted a limited scope job analysis. This phase of work included reviewing job description and organizational charts to enable CMA to develop an understanding of the essential duties and minimum requirements for each position. This was an important phase of our work because the market data compiled by CMA for the project was based on the duties being performed and the minimum education and experience required of each job, and not based on the job title alone. Confirmed compensation philosophy. The phase of work included facilitating discussions with town leaders regarding the overall compensation philosophy for the town. This was an important phase of work because the town's compensation philosophy dictates which market compensation data we benchmark to. The town's overall compensation philosophy is to meet market and pay at market value, which means that they wanted to have a target paying at the medium or 50th percentile rate based on fully meeting minimum requirements and performance expectations. The conduct market study, this phase of work included CMA compiling market compensation data from multiple sources to determine consensus market rate estimates for each benchmark position. A total of 6 data sources were used for the project. This included CMA conducting targeting survey of peer municipalities identified by Town of Lisbon, which was supplemented by data from the Maine Municipal Association wage survey. This peer group included Auburn, Brunswick, Falmouth, Gorham, Lewiston, Saco, Scarborough, Topsom, Westbrook, Wyndham, and Yarmouth. Data from other sources was compiled based on the industrial sector of municipal governments with similar annual revenue and numbers of employees in the state of Maine. It was important to use as many data sources as possible to capture a robust view of the current relevant labor market in our state and peer municipalities to Lisbon. Develop pay structures. This was the next phase of work, included developing updated pay grades and wage structures based upon the compiled market data. This included CMA developing what is being called a general or comprehensive pay structure, covering most of the town's non-union positions. Separate pay structures were created for public safety law enforcement positions, public works positions, and library positions. These structures are composed of steps or rates of pay at entry and various year of service milestones. Once these pay structures were developed, jobs were assigned to the various pay grades and levels based upon the market value for each position. This was an important process to ensure that the pay ranges set for each position was market competitive based on the Town of Lisbon's compensation. And then the final part of it was evaluation market equity. This phase of work included evaluating internal and external equity for each position. This involved comparing current employee rates of pay to the market rates of pay and to the midpoint rates of the new pay structures. What CMA found through the analysis is that Town of Lisbon is paying below market on base wages. Overall, on average, about 12% below market. This is based on comparing the average rate of employee pay for each job to the median market rate for the filling regular full-time and part-time position. Vacant seasonal positions were excluded from the analysis. This work was completed in March of 2022. We literally just got this information in. So as you can see, there was a lot of steps that were taken, and I'm going to have Charles Wilkinson from CMA come in hopefully within the next town council meeting to give you a nice PowerPoint presentation. But I just wanted to give you that brief overview. So you're going to see in our budget is an incremental 3 fiscal years, including these wages. The increase in salary and benefits will be over a 3-year period, as I said. In the initial year, fiscal 23, we'll have the offset to a current asset account to bring all salary wages to the recommended market value structure as presented by CMA. In layman's terms, that means we're going to get the employees up to market value this fiscal year. And our plan moving forward is over a 3-year period to keep it steady. So at this point, I'm going to have Kayla Tierney go over some of the financial numbers.
So we're first going to look at the impacts and expenditures for fiscal year 23 budget that's being proposed in comparison to the fiscal year 22 budget that was adopted. The FY22 adopted general fund, which is excluding county tax and school, was $8,856,258. The 2023 managerial presented budget tonight, excluding county tax and school, is $10,690,348. That's a $1,834,090 increase, or 20.71%. Looking at counties outside of our control, it's set by Androscoggin County, and the 2023 county tax increase is $33,072. So that's about an $836,000 expenditure for the Town of Lisbon, which is a 4.12% increase from fiscal year 22. Look at debt structure, 2023 debt structure, $483,248, which is a $121,905 increase, or 33.74% over fiscal year 22. What I would like to highlight is that in FY22, we paid off 2 bonds. So that increase is going to be for the principal and interest for Pinewood Road that we took out in 2020, which was a Maine Municipal Bond Bank general obligation bond. And the one that we are presenting for Ferry Road for 2022, that went to the bond bank in February. And if that goes through, then that would be interest in that number for fiscal year 23. Looking at sewer, sewer is independent of the general fund as they're reliant on their own sewer rate increases, so that's their sewer revenue. Fiscal year 2022 adopted sewer budget was $1,264,731. The 2023 managerial sewer budget request $1,354,094, which is an $89,363 increase, or 7.07%. As we had just talked about the salaries and benefits, fiscal year 2023 general fund wage and benefit request, in comparison to fiscal year 22, it's a $1,216,711.72 increase, or 22.85%. And we look at the sewer, it's $590,832 fiscal year 2023 request, in comparison to fiscal year 2022 of $510,522 is an $80,310 increase, or 15.73%. If we look at both the general fund and the sewer increase, it's $1,297,021.72. We're looking at that 2/3 offset from that current asset account. So 2/3 would be $864,724.38 as that offset to that $1.2 million increase. Impacts to expenditures continued. Total general fund, $10,690,348. Total debt service, $483,248. Total county, $33,072. What's the bottom line here? Bottom line is taking the total dollar increase less the 2/3 offset of $811,181 to the general fund, and the other to the sewer fund. We're looking at a difference net offset of $1,150,848.29, which is a 6.46 increase to the budget overall. So we can't look at just expenditures, we have to look at revenues as well. Impacts and revenues, fiscal year 23 budget versus fiscal year 22 budget. I've put together kind of, as you've probably, it looks familiar, it's part of my department head reports. The chart is the general funds by the organization. So our fiscal year 22 budget is $4,290,271 budgeted for revenues. As of today, this data from 3/15/2022, $3,219,990.36 has been received as revenue, which is at 75%, which is exactly where I'd expect us to be 9 months into the year. So fiscal year 22 revenues, what makes up most of our revenue? General government makes up 87% of our current year-to-date amounts. And you can see that in the pie chart underneath the table. The other percentages are health and welfare, which is inclusive of general assistance. General assistance is a 70% reimbursement from the state, which goes against that expenditure. Public safety, public works, and public works can be the solid waste transfer station and anything that's entailed in there. And culture and recreation, which is our parks and recreation department and our library department.
So budgeted per property mill rate, town fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23. So the preliminary fiscal year 23 budget revenues, based on the projections published this afternoon. Now, just this afternoon, today's date, March 15th, the State of Maine's website, the revenue sharing for fiscal year 23 is showing an $855,912.84 increase from fiscal year 22. So the state revenue sharing for Lisbon is $2,225,912.84 to Lisbon. So that's That's pretty substantial compared to last year.
And I would say that their projections are pretty spot on from what we're looking at, what we've received so far.
So when we first put this budget together, we just received this information, and we didn't want to. First of all, this budget is completely transparent. We were putting it absolutely everything in the slides, all the percentages and all the numbers. So we didn't want to take a guess on what the revenue would be. So that isn't included in all the figures beforehand. We're just getting those revenues as well, which is going to help offset what we've been looking at here. So what does this mean for Lisbon, okay, as far as the mill rate? Because it's all, everybody wants to know the bottom line. What's this mean for Lisbon? So originally, proposed numbers, what you were looking at in front of you, was a 1.5 mil increase. Okay, and last year, the town council took a proactive measure, reduced it by 1 mil. This year, we were originally proposing to go up back to that 1 mil and then a half is what we were originally projecting. As of this afternoon, the revenue numbers came in a lot higher than we expected. But we didn't want to plan for best case scenario. We want to plan for worst case scenario if we came in front of you tonight. So originally, we were planning the 1.5 mil increase. Now, learning about the revenue sharing this afternoon, this can drop that down to a 1 mil increase. What that means is this will bring us back to the same mill rate as fiscal year 21. With all the unforeseen challenges that we'll see moving ahead, we're going to be in the same place we were just a couple years ago, which is very fiscally responsible. It's a responsible budget. Based on the 2020 census, because what does this mean for Lisbon residents? Based on the 2020 census, on a medium household valuation in Lisbon, a 1 mil increase would be approximately $150 over the course of the year. If people got their CMP bills last month, I know some people got CMP bills that were larger than that. So it's a pretty financially responsible budget that we're proposing here today. And it was a very nice surprise to both Kayla and I have worked endless hours on this budget to get that right at the end. And I also like to see it because I care about this community as well. And the last thing I want to do is be asking for huge increases. So moving along, our senior citizens. I'm going to say first and foremost, I think this is a pivotal moment for the town councilor standing in front of me. This is a plan that I've heard from more than one counselor, and I've also heard it from finance committee members, that this is something that they'd like to see in the community. And I just want you to let everybody know that we are listening, okay? And we are looking at this and we're working on this. So, Senior Citizen Tax Relief Program. Looking at using a current asset account to help support and fund that program. It's an account that we already have set up. What would this look like, you may ask? Because everybody wants to know Senior Citizen Tax Incentive Program. I think this would be really good for our community. This could look several different ways, but for one way I look at it is senior citizen, 67 years or older. I look at it as a senior citizen that has lived in our community 10 years. And then obviously it's going to be based on their annual income as well. And it would also be based on a senior citizen that lives and resides in the town of Lisbon, somebody that lives here. So those are some of the things that I can look at. So this is obviously a very large program, and it's nothing that we've attempted before. So both Kayla and I, we respectfully ask the town council to task the town manager, at this time it is me, and the finance director, Kayla Tierney, to work with the finance committee in researching to implement this program for our senior citizens moving forward in fiscal year 23. Moving along, the undesignated fund balance, this is the policy which is right in our charter. We thought it was important to put in our slide, so we have it as well attached to the agenda. Use of unassigned fund balance. As of June 30th, 2021, the unassigned fund balance based on the audited financial statement is $3,463,099 per town charter. 12% of the fund balance is to be retained, or $1,331,335.48. And looking at the fund balance, it is important to keep in mind the amount designated during the fiscal year 2022 budget adoption, as this is to be subtracted from the above number. After doing so, it'll leave $675,999.62. The following capital assets are being requested to be funded through the unassigned fund balance during fiscal year 23. $145,000 for a tractor trailer for the solid waste department that's due to be replaced. And all of these you're going to hear further on when you have your individual budget workshops. So you'll have plenty of time to ask plenty of questions about these improvements. A $50,000 one-ton truck for the Parks and Recreation Department, $14,127 ongoing clerk book restoration project, $16,000 for PD firearm 10-year replacement program. That is not in your packets, and we will update that. That was full disclosure, that was accidentally left out in that wording there. But we will have that updated in the packets. That is basically our the police officers' sidearms. Every 10 years, we replace them. It's a legality and liability, and our 10 years is up. And also the $450,000 for the salt shed, which is going to be redesignated from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 23, because even if that project started, it's going to go into fiscal year 23. So we want to make sure that the funds are there and available moving forward for that project. Capital Improvement Plan. The CIP is a document that focuses on the implementation of community goals through detailed recommendations on capital spending and needs for the current and forecasted fiscal years. The CIP is to be submitted to the council to be broken down by town and presented here on a department level. This plan is presented on a 5-year model and a 10-year model. The CIP demonstrates specific projects, amount of those projects, and the sources of funding for those projects. This document is a framework for making the best use of financial resources. Within the CIP report, a section of footnotes following immediately after the department's requests. These footnotes go into more depth about the capital items being requested in the upcoming fiscal year. In addition to the 5- and 10-year plan forecast, the report includes an estimated annual cost of operating and maintaining vehicles and equipment, as well as the current mileage of those vehicles. The debt structure, bonds, and leases is also included in this report. Each department has submitted their requests for capital needs. And this is what basically it looks like. And this is the 5-year CIP plan, which includes all of the departments. So basically what this does is, for the newer councils to be aware of, this is planning ahead. This is not just the 5 years moving along. This goes into 10 years. So obviously a lot can change in 10 years, but this is a strategy that's planning ahead, and it's been put to us by previous councils to make sure we're adequately planning and preparing, so we don't have big ticket numbers, items coming up unexpectedly. So it's actually worked out pretty well. Do you want to get into this one?
So I'd like to highlight the debt structure here. I think it's important to look at the debt structure when talking about capital improvement plans, because that speaks to, looking at the mileage and the wear and tear on certain equipment and vehicles, that need for, overdoing maintenance costs and then replacing that fixed asset on a useful life duration. Looking at the debt structure here, how do we fund these? Debt structure, this is 5-year fiscal year 23 to 27. For forecasted 6/30/2023, we're at $570,473 for debt structure. Now that's inclusive of bonds that is solely for the town, or it's split between town and water, town and sewer. And we have the 2 new road reconstruction ones, the Pinewood one in 2020, and the one that we will be doing for Ferry Road in 2022. And that's for total committed $570,473. Proposed RD loan, speaking to what Mandy Oliver and Steve had presented tonight, that is that $6.5 million loan that's going to be coming due. The sewer department has been looking at raising rates over X amount of years to pay for that. So that's going to be sewer revenue, where we're expecting right now, kind of as Mandy had alluded to, it could go down, but it certainly won't go up. So what we're expecting is about $322,525 to pay back that USDA loan. Total committed and proposed, $892,998. From a debt ratio standpoint, it's very healthy financial for a municipality. We're able to fund capital projects without taking out significant debt. And if we look at the 10-year, by 10-year, fiscal year 2032, we have a $211,981 committed debt. and a proposed still for that RD. So all in, 534,506 on our 10-year plan. So that's showing progressively we're paying down our debt, and we're able to set a plan in motion to pay for large expenditures.
So the fiscal year 23 CIP highlights the police department. The police department has used a cruiser replacement plan that's worked out pretty well. And essentially that cruiser replacement plan replaces one cruiser 1 year and two cruisers the next year. It's a set dollar amount every year, so the budgets aren't fluctuating. And what that does is it allows us to purchase that cruiser on the second year, the two cruisers on that second year, and upfit the cruisers. This coming fiscal year, it is a one cruiser replacement year. And also the police department, it's the firearm replacement as well. With the fire department, they're replacing car 4, which is a 2010 pickup, and that's going to be funded through the TIF. Turnout gear funded through municipal budget, and then the hydraulic rescue tools will be funded through the municipal budget as well. The Parks and Recreation, a 1-ton dump truck body funded through the unassigned fund balance, and a side-by-side utility four-wheeler funded through the municipal budget. Public Works will be the salt shed, redesignated fund balance from the fiscal year 22 and moved to the fiscal year 23. Annual paving funded through municipal budget. Guard rail repairs funded through municipal budget. Sidewalks funded through municipal budget. And gasoline tank pump replacement funded through the municipal budget. Solid waste, tractor trailer funded through unassigned fund balance. Treatment plant, a Freightliner FL80 funded through the sewer budget. 75 kilowatt Onan generator portable funded through sewer budget. A polymer feed system will be funded through the sewer budget, and a clarifier rehab funded through the sewer budget. And that is the managerial budget, and that is all the information. And at this time, we'll take some questions.
I have one.
Yep, absolutely. Go ahead.
And only one. So, don't look at me like that. Are we going to be going into a little bit more detail on the offset for the payroll discussion at some point?
Yes.
Because that's kind of a big mystery out there right now.
Yep, so essentially, as Kayla explained earlier, some debts have already been paid off this year, and more debts are being paid off as we move forward in the years to come. Then on top of debts being paid off, obviously every year we actually get more revenue and more taxes, because there's a larger tax base. Part of it is, look how much our community is growing, and on top of that, look at the amount of houses that are going into Lisbon this year alone. There's houses going in, there's new neighborhoods that are planned to be going in, there's apartment buildings that are going to be going in, and there's plans of more apartment buildings to be going in. So part of that plan structure is a 3-year plan. 2/3 of it this year, because the last thing we want to do is a huge impact to the citizens of this town. So this year, we will do it at the 2/3. Next year, it steps down at half, and then the third year at third. Now, those numbers can adjust, and obviously working with the Finance Committee, that can be fluid over the next 3 years. But that allows revenues and taxes and so on and so forth to continue to climb up to offset that. Today alone, we saw a significant $854,000 in revenue that we didn't know that we were going to get that much money from state revenue sharing at that time. Most certainly, we could have said, let's keep it at the 1.5 mill rate increase, and let's use that half a mil to offset the mill rate. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to stick with the plan that we had moving forward because it makes financial sense. So it made sense to reduce that down to the 1 mil with the revenue sharing, which we knew set in stone we do have now, and then we can move forward with the same plan.
That didn't
No, basically,
answer the question.
I think it is for a different night, but there's actually, I think Don's more inquiring about the idea of the use of different accounts.
Oh,
that
the
we
account
have
itself.
To actually
Yes.
offset.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah. Which I know there's probably a lot more detail, and we'll probably be talking about that in some of our
I
budget
just wanted to know
presentations.
if we're going to do that at some point. We don't have
Yeah.
to do it tonight.
Yes, we most certainly should, actually. And because part of that is in asking about the senior citizen plan that we'd like to move forward. There's a lot of discussion that I'd like to have with the Finance Committee and even if members of the council to discuss that program essentially is what we're looking at, but also look at the interest from this that could actually help with basically a senior citizen incentive as well. So there's a lot more detail than the overview that we're going into tonight. So I apologize, I misunderstood at first what you're asking.
And again, there's a lot more detail on this that hasn't even been talked about in the last few budget seasons. So I mean, I think there's a lot of information to come, and I think it's all good news. It's not bad. It's always good. The one question I had is that you didn't mention tonight, but I assume from our discussions that the numbers you're looking at does actually, at this point, includes the school increase also that they've presented, right?
So this is the budget that includes everything in our community. Everything's included. The school budget's included, as well as the other increases that we'll see throughout the budgets.
Because I think it's
this
important.
includes everything.
Because listening to, as we have the school presentation, a good part of that 1 mil is school related also. And you know, as we know, every year things go up. So the idea to just even get back to where we were 2 years ago is kind of, not many of our household budgets actually take a year that goes lower and goes back to the following year. I mean, I don't think any of us can say that. So it's a lot of work. I do appreciate everything you put into us, because I hate to see the amount of hours you have actually clocked in, just actually, you know, here and at home trying to think about this in the middle of the night, right? So
Both of us.
yeah, it's a lot of work.
I think Twyla and I actually texted at like 10:30 plus at night a few times. So.
Yep. Any other questions? All this will be in more in detail. This is just an overview, and as he mentioned, we'll actually be breaking down pretty much every department through the budget season, so we'll be able to ask individual questions, but also having a more overview of the premise on how the funds come and where they're coming from and how they will be used, and the research we've done to make sure that that's a due process that's actually worth using. So.
And we start that next week, right?
Yes, moving forward, pretty much every Tuesday night, we either have a budget workshop or a council meeting.
Yep.
So.
Okay, like in that meeting, could you make sure that you have the, like all the listing of all the accounts that we currently have that make up that 3-point-something million there, just so we can see what we have existing and what we're budgeting to spend? I'd like to see that, you know, just be prepared with that.
Yeah, and I think they've actually shown that they're willing to, as you said, be very open. So, I mean, if any council has any questions about anything as the budget moves forward, you don't have to wait to a budget workshop night. Feel free to, you know, email in to Ryan or to the finance, and it's always better to have the information ahead of time, so that way there, instead of just having a question on a night and trying to get the answer, if you send it ahead of time, it will give them some time to pull up the information and make sure, because if one of us has a question, odds are someone else has that same question. So,
the biggest thing I get across tonight is that we really took the community's needs, but also expectations. I mean, both of us have a lot of family in this community, and we care about this community, and obviously with all the unknowns that are happening, I think this is a very financially responsible budget that we're presenting. So.
And it takes care of one. It doesn't totally take care of, but it actually moves us in the right direction of being non-competitive with our communities around us to try to keep employment people here. So I mean that's been a big challenge, and it's going to be a big challenge, and it gets us into a place where people aren't coming here as a last resort. They're coming here because they like the community and they get paid well enough to stay here and actually be able to have a professional job and keep moving forward.
Yeah, because there's several positions that they're grossly under the low wages, and part of this with the pay study is, as I briefly explained, and I was hoping to have Charles here tonight. Part of it is moving forward, having that pay scale structure from 0 years to 20 years. So if you're here 20 years, you don't just make $1.25 more after 20 years. It's a scheduled set pay, so it's actually an incentive to keep our employees here, and that's what the other communities around us are doing. So
if we
That's
hire,
good, because that was our goal for at least the last couple of years.
last couple of years. Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Don. And one of the things was to actually show new hires that, you know, where they're going to be in 5 years if they get employed here. And that's something we really haven't had the opportunity to do. Everybody knows what their starting pay is, but it's a yearly kind of question where they move from there, you know. So again, it puts a lot more definite pay structure in place. Yeah.
It will break it down on a grading system, so you'll have the position itself assigned to a grade from A to N, and that way you could categorize it and then look at the step level.
So every position in town will fall into a grade, and then in that grade is a range depending on their job category. You know, it could start out at $20 and go up to $31 for that grade, but in that grade there could be 4 or 5 different positions, and then those positions are broken down into an actual pay scale for those positions. So there was a lot of work that was done by this company, and I have to say that they did a very thorough job going through this and getting what the town council asked for. So
Well needed, I think, and, as, we actually have a lot of data that back that up, so it's really important. Any other questions
I
on
think
the initial?
tonight, very, very good overview for sure, right? To land at one mill rate and fix all the problems that your team walked into, great job. And to put CMP in respective to what we're doing here. I mean, my
Got
CMP,
CMP.
but my light bill doubled, right? And so that's an extra $1,200 a year. So if you look at a mill rate at 1 and you're looking at 150 or so, and that's, pretty good job. And your employees, get what they should be, bring them up to snuff and get them to where they need to be. So the turnover isn't there, and you actually have long-term employees, which is actually, the long run becomes cheaper for the town, because this is a business, and turnovers are very expensive. Retraining people costs a lot of money, right?
$43,000 to the cost of Lisbon residents for a patrol officer that
Right.
leaves and goes to another department.
Exactly.
It costs us that to get them retrained.
Yeah, and that gets lost on many, right?
Yeah,
That don't
many
run businesses right. Training is very, very expensive. The last thing you want to do is have a training turnover, throughout the year, because it becomes very expensive, so, good job.
Any other questions at all? I'm sure there'll be more as moving forward, and thank you very much. A lot of work went into tonight. I do
Well
realize.
presented.
Yeah,
I
well
look
done.
forward to reading all of this.
I already read mine.
We look forward to writing all that.
You wrote it, I'm going to read it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to our Tuesday night date nights, right?
Oh, boy.
Pizza. Pizza.
Do you want to mention this?
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's true.
So one thing that I will mention right now is department goals. If the council is okay with it, instead of going through and listing all of the goals, I thought it made sense to, at each budget meeting with the department heads, be able to go through the goals individually, because they're really great goals. There's a lot of goals from all department heads. Quite frankly, we would be here pretty late if we go through it, but I think it makes more sense to give the department heads the opportunity to go through the goals one-on-one with you.
Yeah,
If
I
you're- if
agree.
the
It's
council's
it's
okay.
their goals, let them present it, right?
Yep.
I agree with that.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Next item, please.
all right. Ordinance 2022-71, Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, stipend to employees. This is the second reading, and a roll call vote will be required.
I'd like to make a motion that we pass this coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund stipend to employees.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Actually, let's go for the roll call.
This is a roll call vote. Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Robichaud?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
We have 7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you, counselors. The employees certainly appreciate that.
A lot of work went into getting that together. I do appreciate all
Thank
the
them
hard
for
work.
what they've done for us, right? I mean, great job, sticking it out.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Okay, next item. Ordinance 2022-72, amend Chapter 70 zoning ordinance. Article 4, District Regulations, Division 13, District Uses, Section 70-531, Table of Land Uses. This is a first reading, and a roll call vote will be required.
Council, this is something that's come up in front of us before. I mean, it's just I guess, not a correction, but just making sure we go through the proper steps on it. Does any of the council need any information on it prior to voting on it, or?
No, I read it.
I'm all set.
All set? Okay, then I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, is this a roll call, or is this a straightforward?
This is also a roll call vote.
Thank you.
And then it has to go to hearing.
Yes, then a hearing. Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Robichaud?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows.
Yes.
We have 7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed 7-0.
And the hearing will be at the next meeting, is that correct?
Yes. So the hearing will be at the next meeting.
Next regular meeting.
Regular
Yes.
meeting,
Right,
yes,
right.
yeah. That was going through with it.
All right.
Next item, please.
Other business, council committee reports.
Alrighty, the school committee, I know the school board's been very active. I know a lot of the mandates that have been talked about and changes, and the schools changed a little bit on that process on masks. And I know I just want to thank the school board for working through this. I know it's not an easy challenge when they're actually working with many different views of different parents and staff, and I think they've done a good job. And I think Lisbon actually should be thanked for all their hard work through this whole process also, because they definitely kept it going, and we were in envy of many school districts around us. The idea is keeping things going. So I know the school worked hard on that, and I think they're just showing that they're being very confident and safe and making sure the students have the correct learning environment. So, and they are still working on their budget, and as we go through, I'm sure we'll get more information from that. The next is the planning board.
The planning board met last Thursday, and among other things, one of the important things is they'd like to meet with the town council, and I think we have preliminary set up for next, the 5th, April 5th.
Yes.
To discuss what the town would like to do and what the planning board would be directed to do with regarding any future changes for zoning, would be particularly emphasis on ROS2, which has been a difficult zoning situation, as well as the possibility of any other zoning that might need attention. So that's set, I think, for the April 5th.
That is tentatively set for April 5th right now.
And that is a 6 o'clock start also,
Yes.
right?
That's April 5th, 6 p.m., yes.
For those who don't know, that's rural open space too, which is a lot of the northern side of the town. So it's, right now it's zoned for very big plots, and it's hard for people to build. So there's some people that want to develop more out there, and some people that want to keep it more rural. So we need to have a discussion about it.
There's some other
issues with how it's
issues
set
too.
up.
For example, Main Street in the Falls is another discussion point. So yeah.
Perfect. You all set? Done? Yep. I'm good with that. Lisbon Development Committee, I don't think there was a all set for that tonight. I know they're going to be speaking possibly later. Conservation Committee?
You want to talk? We'll have Mark talk.
Conservation and recreation at the same time.
Can you grab the microphone if you want?
I was gonna walk right up that one. If that's okay.
So Harry, is that how we do it? We actually pulled the committee chair here.
Well,
I'll have to work on that one.
That's good work.
Yeah,
That's good work.
That's actually,
My name is
they've
Mark
done it
Stevenow,
there.
Parks and Recreation Director, and we were going to have a Conservation Commission meeting tonight at 6 o'clock in the back room, but executive session, we decided to push it next Tuesday, same time, same place. But I wanted to talk about Graziano Square Pavilion. This is what it's going to look like. It's going to be 16 by 16. This is the model that Christian Medor built for us. And we're getting prices for materials. The timbers are coming at a really good price, a lot less than I thought they were going to be. 14 feet high here and 8 feet at the top of the beam here. So this is what it's going to look like in the corner right behind the Graziano Square. Did I say Moxie? I meant Graziano Square.
It still has Moxie. You're all good. So.
Yeah. So we're looking at putting that together first couple weeks in April and have it done by the end of April, if all goes well. The Recreation Committee, they're going to be meeting with the Moxie Committee on the 21st, on next Monday. And we have a lot going on. We're spending a couple hours a day just sponsors, vendors, and getting everything set up for the Moxie Festival. It's taking traction. We're into it really deep now, and looking forward to doing it this year. So.
Entertain questions?
Just one.
Go ahead, and I'll ask one after. Yep.
We're still planning to go with the boxing theme on the gazebo, the stainless steel wires and things around.
I think that was a really good idea, but a 16 by 16 structure, it'd be really difficult to run wire a 16-foot span between the two beams. And the other thing is the cost for a platform. I think it's going to be more than for the price tag we had. So we're going to it looks like we're going to be putting that structure on pavers, and when we do entertainment, we're going to have a stage that we can move around. Since we use them for the Moxie Festival, we'll use them at Rarumbo, just to put maybe a 10 by 10 or a 12 by 12 stage that we can store at Beaver Park when it's not being used.
So you answered my question, because I was going to ask if it's going to be elevated or not, but it sounds like it's going to be ground level.
It's going to be ground level, but we'll have a stage that we use for entertainment.
So there won't be any need for any guide wires in the sense of railings, because it's on ground level, so it won't be an elevated
No,
stage.
I was just thinking of the original theme.
Understandable, yep.
Looks like pavers, and we want it to be wide open anyway so people can see. And when there's no entertainment going on, it'd be nice to have a couple picnic tables under there. So, looking forward to having it finished, though. I think it's been a couple years now, 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think
Definitely needs to be a completed project.
Yes, yeah. All right, thanks.
Mark.
Thank you.
Good job, sir.
See how that goes?
Yeah.
As far as the Conservation Committee, we did lose 2 members of the committee, Richard Main and Mr. Curtis. So we do have a couple openings. We got to get those advertised and get some more people on.
Perfect. And I think we're going to start, we've had some in the past, make sure they're up on the sign out front, the open committees and positions and stuff, right? Perfect. The Parks and Rec, I think you pretty much took care of that too at the same time, unless you want to have Mark come back up.
No, I see Mark all the time now too, though, so that's nice.
Perfect. County budget,
Nothing new to report.
nothing there new. Library,
I know the library just got some learning packets that they have where you can check out, and they have a bunch of stuff like was it Lenses was one of them, and you can do. It looks like a great family thing you could do together with your kids, or even adults can do it by themselves. There's like a book that comes with it with different activities and stuff. So they have a bunch of different variety of ones they're getting in. So stop by the library and check that out.
very cool.
Also on the library, they have a puzzle exchange that doesn't cost anything. And my wife suddenly has taken up puzzling, and she loves it. And I love it because she doesn't have to go buy puzzles. So you can just take a puzzle in, drop one off, and take one. So if that gets more use, then she won't be doing the same one over and over again, which I don't understand, but I guess puzzle people do that. So it's great to have that.
Puzzle.
You left me pretty puzzled.
I didn't mean to puzzle anybody.
Puzzled right now.
Yeah, the library has a lot of great assets beyond just books. So
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
really
lot of things to check in there.
Worth going and checking.
Really try
the
to reach
library
out.
Really, really nice.
Absolutely, very cool.
And
Just love DVDs from there.
Water Commission, Mr. Fellows.
I have nothing to report there. Nothing
Okay.
new.
And Finance Committee,
I also have nothing at this time.
perfect. Things to come. Town Administrator's report, right?
Yes, so the first thing I'd like to ask the council, if I can get the council to make a motion to allow the town manager to give MMA an authorized list of town employees. I was wondering if I could have a counselor make a motion on that.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you remind me who was first and who was the second?
I made the motion.
Okay. Thank you. The order passed 7-0.
And then as far as the town manager's report, there is obviously a lot going on, and I just want to emphasize, I know we talked about it before, but I will make sure that we get that out on all of our different social media sites we have, and also our email listserv as far as the Main Street project with DOT, because that is important that we get the word out there so businesses and anybody in the community can attend that meeting. On top of that, all the department heads have been doing really an outstanding job. We have department head meetings and meet, but really we're still short positions in several departments. And our department heads, I see numerous department heads here today, and hats off to them because they're doing a great job and they're doing a lot. And it's very much appreciated on my end because I'm also wearing a few hats, but everybody's showing up to work with a smile and has a great attitude at the town office, and it really shows, and I just want to thank everybody for that. On top of that, the budget was a huge process, and it'll still continue to be a big process for the next few months, but as Councilor La Rochelle said, don't hesitate at all. If anybody has any questions that come up, you can stop by the office or email me or call my cell phone if you're in the office, because a lot of times I'm not in the office and I'm in someone else's office helping with certain things. So if you come to the town office, you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out or stop by the dispatch center and ask them to find me, and that way I can be available for you. And that's everything right now for a town manager's report.
Thank you. Next item, please. That's it.
The next item is department head written reports.
As you've seen, they were actually all offered in our packet. There's a lot of stuff going on, and thank you, everybody. All the department heads got a lot of work going on, and a lot of stuff getting done. And moving into spring, I'm sure everybody's gonna be happy to see better weather and a lot of other activities happening for sure. But they're all with departments.
Right.
Next item, please.
Next is the Warumbo survey update. And we originally had scheduled a member of the development committee to be here, but she couldn't be here tonight. And as you all know, I was the chair until just recently. So my suggestion is that I offer you a brief update. You have everything in your packets, and that way, if you have questions about anything, I'll be able to answer them for you on behalf of the committee. And this will be my last official opportunity to answer questions for you about it. So I'd like to go to the podium to make sure that my status is separate. If that's okay.
Can I have Twyla then step in, since you're still the clerk, just to take notes? I think that would be important. Thank you.
I'll let you off that easy, huh, Twyla?
What a familiar seat.
So the update is on the all the different parts that have started coming together for the development committee. The first part of your packet, part one, is a concept narrative, which basically is and I'll leave these up here for anyone who would like to see afterwards. But the first one is an image. These are all images that the folks we contracted to do this for us put together. The first is just the development envelope and an idea of where things would go in general. And then the second, well, not the second, but the next four images in your packet are the four options that the committee had brought forward: a community park option, a community park with housing, a community park with housing and a restaurant, and a community park with boutiques and a restaurant. So they're all laid out in those drawings for you, and they're pretty self-explanatory. These are really nicely done drawings that show some opportunity for the types of things that can be. So I think that it was important for everybody to know that these are the what the committee and the experts we've hired to help out have helped us visualize. And if any of the options, not including a park only, were chosen, then these would be what we would show developers and let them know what we visualize in that space, and to give them the opportunity to help us move that forward. The next thing in your packet is a mailer, and the mailer includes a front side and a back side. It's one piece of 8.5 by 11 paper folded into 3 so that we could save money on mailing. And it starts with a letter to the community asking for input, and there's a QR code on it to make it easy for people. You'll notice there are hours listed, I think we call them Warumbo office hours, to give people who aren't as tech savvy an opportunity to ask questions and find a way to get access to that survey. We want as many people as possible to access it. The other side of it, or the inside of the folded area, I'm sorry, this is the outside. It has smaller images of those 4 images that you have of the 4 options, and it states some basic information about each one. Very briefly, just sort of Joe Friday-ish, just the facts, with a picture. Everything that is on this mailer is trying to give people the opportunity to visit the website and get even more information. But for people who are short on time, we hope that these are a good comparison for the 4 different options. I'm going to skip ahead real quick. The next item in the packet is an image of what a yard sign would look like to go all around town in different places to help promote the fact that there's a survey online ready to go. We chose, I don't know if you see that, but the blue ribbon at the bottom is not just the orange and blue going together for something everyone knows it represents, but also the river. So we have that on that signage, and it's also on the mailer. It's upside down on your page on purpose, because when it's folded, that'll be right side up. So we made sure that we had continuity of design through everything. And then the next part of your packet includes what's going online for the survey itself. And so the important part is that we wanted to make sure that the council sees, these questions are not online yet, because we promised the council would be able to see the questions and how they're presented in advance. If they need to be changed, they can. And even though the development director isn't available, the committee, I think the committee has everything, he got everything moving so well along that anything that has to change can be done quickly and in a streamlined way. So everything that you'll see online, the formatting is going to look different online. It doesn't translate to paper very well because it's not actually online yet, but the verbiage and the questions and the images are exactly what's going to be online. Okay. And if you have any questions, if I can't answer them, Councillor Fellows might be able to, or Councillor La Rochelle, because they're both on the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where's the data being stored?
It's a survey.
Survey Monkey.
Survey Monkey.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The only question I have on this is we didn't, as a committee, decide whether we were going to narrow selections down or not. There was some interest on the part of the public when we had our last discussion about that some form of ranked choice ought to be used, which narrows it down automatically so that you don't end up with 4 selections with so many votes on it. My question to the council would be, if you want to do that, would you narrow it to 2, or would you narrow it to 1? Or would you just say, here's first, second, third, and fourth when you get done?
Guess I'd have to see how that actually.
Yeah, for the audience, because they don't see this paperwork, the main question that everyone wants to answer, what do you want to see there? That's listed as, please rank the 4 development options in order of your preference. So each person can say which one they want first, which they want second. So I think that sort of took into account being able to see, for instance, the top 2 choices, or is there one choice that 1% of people like and one choice that 90% of people like? Or do we see 50-50 and then a split on the, are there large percentages for 2 choices or 1 choice? that's going to give us a lot of different information all at once. So I think it addressed that question, and put it a little more simply. We're all used to ranking things. That was the goal. And there was good advice from the marketing people and the web developer too.
Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a concern when you're giving the options with the pictures and stuff, and I feel like you're selling the development options. You're putting a lot of the positives there, but for the park section, you're really underselling it and like not giving the benefits of where it would be a park, where it would be more use for like larger concerts and events and fireworks on the water, and those kind of things are not called out at all there. Or the fact that you have more parking right at the park versus people have to walk from a distance away for other things. And I think it's a little biased the way it's written now, and I have trouble with that.
Okay, I think I hear what you're saying. I think that the reason it doesn't say that is because we had to put everything in an apples to apples view.
I know, but you could have, just like you have development investment probability, you could have use for a large events probability would be decreased for some other events. I think it's
Right.
kind of, you've cherry picked things that make it look better for the residential developments than for the pure park use.
Right, I see that. I mean, I see that point of view. I'm going to say it wasn't intentional if that's what it looks like.
No, I don't think it's intentional.
I think that it's because those opportunities are available in all four options. And so if you look at the website, and I would urge you to, because we can change the verbiage on the website, where the survey is, and take a look at that survey description. That's where that question can be addressed, and I think the committee can take a look at that for you. But just knowing the direction and where we can do certain things, the things that you bring up would be true of all four options, but it would be most true for the largest park,
Right, and
which
that's
is
what I think.
exactly
If you do the
your
same thing
point.
with development,
right?
if you did, even just an option there showing, use for large events, and you could say, 10 for this one and 5 for the other one, the way you're doing with the development options, just to be fair.
And I know
the first one's not a development option. That was the hard part. So you're definitely.
I think
Yeah.
as it's written right now, it seems to be trying to sell the other three, and don't vote for number one.
I was going the other way with it, honestly. Whenever I see zero income, I know I brought this up maybe 2 discussions ago, there's a cost to it, and I was going to go the opposite way of him and put in what does the cost to maintain that with zero income look like?
Right. So it would be the same no matter what. I think it's important to know, and the committee can take a look at the verbiage that goes on the website, but it's important to know that regardless of which option is chosen, the town's responsible for that park.
Yeah, there's 3.5 acres that's going to have a finance impact no matter what.
And so to your point, Mark, the town is responsible for the park, whether it's just a park or a park with development around it. And so I think, there are different, the same questions have to be asked for all 4 options. So I can send your notes to the committee and make sure that they're addressing. Councilor Fellows and Councilor LaRochelle will do the same, I'm sure. I mean, they're very valid, and I think for me, I think maybe I can't see that because I don't prefer one choice over the other. So I personally think they're all great, and I'll be happy with what we choose. But I was unable to see that because I don't choose one over the other. So we'll make sure we get those notes over to the committee, and maybe if you're willing, we can even ask them to forward some of that verbiage to you because you're good at that. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe, I'll have someone on. So Angie Demores has been elected the chair. And I'll be meeting with her anyway to make sure she has all the rest of my notes and everything. So, all right, great.
Yep.
All right.
And any other questions, Elisa, at all? One of the things that's actually come forward, and there's been a lot of work by the group by this for sure, and there's no question about it. It's good information. And one of the things that we are running into now, and after talking to the interim town manager, not having economic developer person in office right now and being low on staff and seeing that there is multiple questions that we still need to address. At this point in time, I mean, we'll take a vote from the council, but we pretty much are going to try to take everything off the interim town manager's plate at this point, besides the necessary things we need to actually make the town move forward, especially due to lack of staff. And it's going to be my recommendation to the council that we actually wait to move this forward until we actually are fully staffed with a manager or an interim or at least an economic developer in-house, so we can actually have this addressed properly and re-looked at and then answer any of the questions we have, because it should be staff that's actually making these changes and making sure they're actually appropriate to go out. So, I mean, that's my recommendation. I'm not sure if council actually wants us, or if the interim wants us to actually make a motion on this and vote on it. But do you feel it's an appropriate way?
I have a comment, if I could.
Sure, go right ahead.
I certainly understand the amount of load that our interim town manager has assumed because we don't have an economic development director. However, I also think that we need to put a time frame on something we're delaying. If we're going to delay it, we don't know how long it's going to take to hire a town manager, nor do we know how long it's going to take to find an assistant. So I think the interest in that park is going to suffer because if we delay indefinitely, first of all, if we make a motion in this session, we either need to assign a date to it or table it indefinitely. And if you table it indefinitely, as we all know, it's gone away, and we don't want that. We've already approved it to go forward. So I'm okay with a delay of somewhat, but not to the extent that we make this not happen until another year from now or something. The other point I would make is if we do delay, there is some time for the volunteers that are already working on this thing to do some of the work. I know that things like ballot counting can be done by several members of an unpaid staff. It does not have to be staff to do that if you get through that part of it. And I know there's enough people out there interested in seeing that we get something done to actually do something and not put it off indefinitely.
This doesn't do anything but give us the data we've been planning to get. We don't have to make a decision on it. We're just getting the data we've been planning to get.
Yeah.
So when a new person does come on board, they have all the data, they have understanding of where the town is, so this makes it an easier discussion for them or decision to help with when they say, here's my big chunk of data, versus coming in and then starting flat without any information, hoping to someday get said data versus having it stored and ready.
If Ryan's good with it, I would make a motion to table this until we actually have a town manager and an economic developer, is what I would say, because nobody right now has the time or the energy.
I would say maybe until we have an economic development director, because town manager could be 6 months, and I
We are out to add for an economic
I think
and
economic
community
development, probably
development,
within a couple of months we'll have something
and that
there.
is due to close soon.
So the stage we're at right now, the way I understand it, is to get the questionnaires out to the people.
That's correct. Right, to take advantage of the
That's the
momentum
next-
that we have right
that's the
now.
next step.
Right, it's in the public purview really strongly right now, and we've already budgeted, and we already have the budget and the mailing designed and set up and ready to go. If we were able to do the mailer and the survey, that would finish that sort of section that needed to be done. I think I have to agree with Fern that in terms of moving forward after that, we would definitely need at least an economic development director, if not a manager in place, because it's the committee can only go so far without that additional direction, because the committee does work with the development office. But these are things that are already in place, and as Councilor Miller pointed out, it's ready to go, and I mean, it's already budgeted. Everything's all lined up.
Can it be done with personnel, like Don mentioned, that volunteers and not put a strain on staff anywhere?
I think it can.
Yeah, the committee can do it. So we have hours left for Howard Cohn. We still have hours left with him, and we still have paid hours with the group that put together all of these for us and helped with that. So we already have them. They're already being paid, and the other thing's already budgeted. I mean, I have to say, especially with the way things have happened on the committee, it might be a chance for the committee to be able to move this forward, finish that, hands-on work that they were already doing.
If we could do that without stressing the town's employment situation, I would be in favor of that. But
hard to say.
if it's going to be,
the phone calls are going to come to. There's only one person that answers the economic and the town office right now, because there's not even a secretary there. So, I mean, I only can communicating with her daily. I know that there is actually days that basically it's hard to do anything because all he's doing is answering the phone. So, I mean, there's no way this is going to go out. I mean, I'm sitting on the same place with Mark. I mean, I've had a lot of response back from this where there needs to be a lot more work done in the verbiage to this to make it go out fairly. One of the things that was asked initially on the front was not the idea of zeros, but the idea of having Cliff's idea of what's it going to cost to maintain, but also what the potential impact of the community is. I mean, what's not showing on this is the idea of even the potential income the community is going to get as a whole from even something as the Blues Festival, and that could easily bring $100,000 to $150,000 in the community in a weekend, which that type of stuff really ought to be portrayed here. You know what I mean? And it's really not at this point in time. So,
well, I think it takes a minor amount of effort to tweak that one line to make Mark's point. You can say a couple of things, but you can't lie on it.
No, you can't, but actually there's a lot of assumptions to the whole thing. The idea of the assumption of how much income is going to come into the community from employees. I realize that's somewhat of data, but some of the data that actually needs to be compiled in the first one is other communities like us that actually have something similar that actually has no endowed.
We did try to look into what it would cost, looking at other communities that the income is actually, the direct income to the town is little to none most of the time.
I'm not sure how that can be said, though. I mean, I don't think
because there's no way to collect income for. Well, it's minimal. So anyway.
Yeah, and again, it's not really. It's,
right.
Again,
no.
I think it's just proof that this needs a lot more work, and I don't think it's actually ready to go out at this point. My own personal opinion.
So if you,
if the committee is together on this, it doesn't sound like the committee even is together on how we should go forward.
The committee is as divided on what should be done there. As this council is.
Probably a snapshot of the town.
And the town is as divided as the council and the committee are. So they're all good things. So I would say that if we were to go in the direction of putting everything on hold, that if we still have some budget time with the professionals who are already on board with us, to have them look into. We didn't have them look into how much it would cost to maintain a park and find that income offset and what the income to the community, so other businesses as well, so those secondary incomes. We didn't include that in what they were doing because their job was separate, but if they're willing to, I think we could ask them to look into that so that when we do, if we decide to put it on hold and we move forward later, we at least have that information to start. So, when I say we couldn't find good information about income, it's just the half dozen towns that we contacted about it. It wasn't good information. It wasn't statistically comparable information. There were no apples to apples. There were no good statistics, and you don't want to come to council with no good information.
I totally agree with that. Yep,
I think if we're able to, we could maybe ask those. We could ask them if they could help us take a look at that and use the rest of what was in the budget for finishing this. We've got this finished to this point, and
I think
as long as we don't lose the budget to move forward on picking it back up later, I
don't think we'll lose any budget. My biggest concern is anything that we do at this point, I mean, regardless, whatever we do, is actually has to be directed by somewhat of a staff, right? Even if it's through the volunteers or through the committee.
So the volunteers can put stuff together, but they can't make the final.
But the only one staff person we have here, you got to realize there's only one, and then he's sitting
right
with
there.
us tonight. I mean, he is playing all the hats, and I would love to say that Lisbon doesn't have a lot of fires burning, but we actually have a lot of fires
Right.
burning. And, you know, we're very privileged to have him. He's been working 7 days a week, and sometimes he, you know, reaches out to me early in the morning, well before 6 o'clock, and sometimes late at night, and sometimes on Sundays. So this guy's working 7 days a week right now to keep the ship kind of going. And I just don't think he needs this part of economic development to do at the same time. I mean, I think if Brett hadn't left, I think we'd be in a totally different discussion right now. But
Yeah.
we've actually had key people leave, and unfortunately, that is something that's out of our control.
Right.
But it is our control to actually not burn out the guy that's going to need to be here probably for several more months while we try to get things going.
How long would you delay it?
I would delay it till we actually had an economic developer in staff up and going. And I would think that's
So
going to
do you
happen.
estimate that that would be by July 1st?
We can put a date on it if you want to, but
I'd
it's
like
have to be
put it-
revisited
I'll
at that
go
time.
along with the delay if we put a date on it.
And I think we should use those funds to develop it over the next few weeks.
Yes.
The day that guy's hired, that survey goes out.
But still, though, you're pushing that on him to have.
No, we're putting it on Lisa.
But, well, on the committee.
The committee
The-
now.
We're putting it on
The,
Dawn, we'll put it
the
on
development committee can put it on their
You can't-
agenda
you
to,
can't.
But someone in the development committee can still put together the survey with his feedback, so that we as
Yeah,
a
we can keep,
group-
I mean, I think there still can be some work done on it, but the idea of putting it out and actually getting, you know, putting anything, I guess I'm against anything that's going to put more stress and do
I got it.
on Ryan, because I
don't
think
either.
we're.
That's why I said if we can do it
Yeah.
without stressing our staff, then I would be
And I think
in
there's
favor.
other opportunities too, other than just right now this year, to have to do these for.
So, if I may, real quick, and I appreciate everybody's all sides of this. Regardless, at the end of all this, we want to make sure I'm going to do what needs to be done in order to take care of our staff and obviously the people in town. But at the end of the day, I obviously want to see right by the town. And I do know that a lot of times the councils will stop by. There is a lot that goes on in the community. There was a lot that Diane did when Diane was here, and there's less staff here now than when Diane was here. But it's important as well to make sure that whoever's sitting in the seat, whether it's me or somebody else, I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job by the town. I don't want to do anything halfway. I want to do things good and thoroughly. And whether you decide to go forward with the survey or not go forward with the survey, at the end it is important, I think, as Dawn just pointed out, having an economic and community development person. And that makes sense to me because really we need that person to be involved and to be talking to people. We're going to get the data back, but that does make sense. And I don't think the town will be able to move forward to do anything unless I'm wrong. But until obviously we get the survey back, and then we have the economic community development person, and then that person be able to work with whatever renderings are decided on by the community. We don't know what they're going to decide. It could be decided full-scale building, or it could be a park. But regardless, we want to do, as town government, we want to do good by the community. So whatever the community ends up deciding, we want to make sure that we're accurately betraying on our due diligence what we're putting forward. And there's already a lot of questions that just came up just now. So to me, I don't want it to be put on me as far as Ryan McGee. I just want to make sure that if there are a few more questions, let's just answer them. We have a good working group, whether it's both sides that they're seeing, but it makes sense to, maybe work on just clarifying a few more things and, getting an economic and community development person on board. I don't really think, like Dawn just said, July 1st or whatever the date is, I don't think a few months is really going to kill anything, but I think it'd be our due diligence to make sure that at least we're accurate in whatever we're putting out. So when the economic community development person comes in, they got accurate information of what the council would like to see on the renderings.
Why don't we, if I could, just to move on for tonight, why don't we do this? The July 1st, I have no problem with actually putting a date, because I think it is important that there's been a lot of work put in this.
We
without
could
a
call
doubt.
it a goal of July
We can
1st.
keep it a goal.
I think you need to call it a goal because July 1st is unfair. Any date's unfair because no one has a crystal ball, right? So to say you're going to have someone in place, I mean, I've been hiring people all my life, right? So it's a little ridiculous to think that, right? So why don't we say put a date, but it's a date that's movable, right? I mean, you may not have anyone July 1st, right? And then you're right back doing this again, arguing about it and.
Well, we do this. I'll make a motion that we actually make a goal
Right,
of
I know.
July 1st. And in the meantime, I would like to have any counselors, now that the information's been shared with us, to actually forward any questions or updates or would likes or information forward, and to be forwarded to the Lisbon Development Committee so they can keep working on it.
Yeah.
So that way there, at least the dialogue will keep going.
You have a motion on the floor.
I'm making that motion that we actually,
There's one on the floor.
there is.
Yes.
Or,
Did you hear it? It was to table the mailing the survey out until the economic development was hired. And then what I heard was
No second.
that somebody,
Yeah.
was seconded by Councilor Lunt. That was what
I
you
didn't hear
wanted.
that one. I guess I
Did
missed
you
it.
not,
That either.
did we not, you,
Did you do that?
that's what I
Who
was.
actually
That
made,
was
who made the
what
first,
he-
who made the first, who made the motion, that
table it?
motion?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jay-
the first
yeah,
motion was
Councilor
there, so-
Smith made it.
Yeah.
I thought I understood you
Yep.
to have seconded it.
Can I modify, can I offer a friendly
Now,
amendment to?
it would be an amendment for July
friend-
1st, correct?
Right. I'll offer as a
And-
friendly amendment if you agree to that.
A goal.
Yep.
A goal. Considered a goal.
Yeah,
You're
July
good?
1st.
So would we, okay,
what's the
so
motion?
to mail let's see, to table the mailing the survey out until an economic development director is hired, or by July 1,
A goal of July 1, yeah,
or a goal
to continue the work. Moving forward.
of July
Pick it up
1.
again.
It's gonna come quick. Yeah, so just make sure we can continue that dialogue.
We have to do this for the motion?
It's already there,
But
we
when
just
a
need to vote on it, I
Friendly
guess.
amendment, you probably don't need a second and a vote on that, and the whole thing, if everybody's okay with that motion.
Are we
Is that
good? So
similar, what
You want to read it
wanted?
back, just so everybody's clear of it?
Table the mailing, the survey out until an economic development director is hired, or as a goal by July 1.
We get a first and second, all those in
That
favor?
was, yep, you're good. So we have 6, any opposed? 1, and order passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this will give the committee, because the committee has a turnover too, and especially with the development director gone and the chair moving out. So this will give the committee a chance to reorganize a little bit. So I don't see it as a bad thing. And I think that, if emails come to me, I can easily forward them to the members of the committee. So I think it's going to be disappointing to the committee members that it's stalled in a sense, but also a little bit of a relief that there's not a they don't have their backs up against the wall with a timeline. So it could be helpful in the end, I think. So.
All right, with that
All right.
vote, let's, next item,
I'll turn this back over.
okay?
Thank you, Twyla.
Thank you, Twyla. Are you going to be here every week to step in? No? You were.
That's mine, I just trying to get out of the way there.
All right. Next item, under appointments, Order 2022-73 to accept the Planning Board and Lisbon Development Committee member resignations from Lisa Ward.
Entertain a motion?
I'll move to regretfully accept that resignation.
Second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Next item, please.
Order passed 7-0. Next item, Councilor Communications.
I spoke my piece tonight. Anybody else have anything to bring up?
Tired, let's go home.
Seeing none, next item, please.
All right. Next item, audience participation and response for new items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues not on the agenda.
Mark, I see you getting up. No, I'm sorry. I think we're all good. Next item, please.
Okay. Next item, executive session. The item was taken up at the beginning of the meeting, so the next item is Order 2022-74 to adjourn.
Entertain a motion.
So move.
All those in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
7 to 9's in the late night. 6 to 9 is actually, what are you thinking? Are we putting, I know the meeting's done now, but as far as our budget meetings, do we have a time frame that we're going to try to stick within?
We do, and that was, I can send it out again tomorrow.